pieces, my body, head, and soul. Many miles away, I could start a perfect story. Find myself and find out glory. This deceptive world, giving me the sign, giving me the sign. Giving me the sign, giving me the sign.
Welcome everyone to the Sci-Fi Queens podcast, where we explore the female characters in science fiction television shows, movies, books, games, art, anywhere female characters are depicted. If you are new to our channel, we welcome you and we ask that you hit that subscribe and notification bell. We really would appreciate it, as it will help our channel grow, and it'll let you know when our next episodes are coming up. If you want to support our channel, we ask that you please go to our website that's scrolling at the bottom there, sci-fiqueens.net, and check out our merch store. It's linked there, and some excellent information about the Sci-Fi Queen podcast. My name is Nita. I am your host, and tonight joining me are my beautiful co-hosts Sarah and Tiffany, and we're going to be talking about fantasy and sci-fi. So, Sarah and Tiffany, how are you guys doing?
I'm good. It's been a long week, but happy to be here.
It sure has been.
It's been a cold week here. I think the wind chill is 17 degrees right now.
Well, yeah, it's been cold in New York City as well. Upstate New York got a lot of snow. We didn't get it down here in New York City, but we got a lot of the cold.
Yes.
Came with the snow for sure. So we're going to be talking about science fiction and fantasy. It's something that a lot of people tend to confuse science fiction and fantasy as the same thing. But if you look up the information online, fantasy has sci-fi derives with science and technology, and it talks about futuristic events and things like that, while fantasy is more focused on magic or the supernatural. So we're going to be talking about that tonight. Tiffany, talk to me about that, because you do a lot of online information and on our show about TV, and you are quite versed on the differences of fantasy and sci-fi. So talk to me about that.
Right. So so like you said, sci-fi does, of course, focus more on scientific methods and things that, that deal with technology and like space, anything like STEM focused, or, something that would be still like fantastical in our minds, because, of course, it's something that we don't have, but not fantasy. Whereas fantasy is like world building and in these worlds that are similar to ours, but very different in ways of like magic and creatures and, just like groups of people that can do these fantastical things, and like, mysteries, lots of mysteries in fantasy, lots of like epic choices and like sagas and prophecies. They big on prophecies in fantasy. So that's one thing I like about it, because they always present you with something that you either have to figure out, or that you're just like, all right, I'm into this. I'm along for this ride, especially if it has magic like that. So all fantasy doesn't, always have magic. There's some like magical elements, but it's not always like someone's doing magic, But I love if it has magic, like direct magic. Yeah, that's those are the ones that are for me.
Absolutely. How about you, Sarah?
Same. I like everything. So I know that's kind of weird, but I haven't met a fantasy that I don't like, and I haven't met a sci-fi that I don't really like. Sometimes it takes me a little longer to get into them, just because sometimes that world building is rough. But I do like that, and I like when they expand on something that's already established and keep growing. Like, I don't know, like just more like things that you wonder about, and then there's either another book or another show or something that explains it. Like um I read the Lord of the Rings first. I read the trilogy first, and then I went back and read The Hobbit just because it wasn't available when I read it. And then I was like, oh, well, it was questions that I had like, I don't understand this and I don't understand that. And then I read The Hobbit and it's like, oh, okay, so that makes more sense now. And then kind of like that. The universes keep growing and growing and getting bigger and bigger. And like Tiffany said, I always think of it as if there's a wizard, it's generally fantasy, which I was just thinking that like, so Star Wars is like the perfect blend of the two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It
because
is.
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
because it is science fiction and it takes place in space, but there are wizards. So
Yes. Yes. I think that Star Wars managed to blend and bring together that line and of
and that's
science
probably why so many
fiction
people like it.
and fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
because
Hmm.
it's not just one or the other. And because of the way the stories are written, you really cannot have one without the other.
Right.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that is the
Mm-hmm.
great thing about
Yeah.
it. Now, Sarah and I have had, and Tiffany and I have had a conversation about talking about shows that fall under that fantasy topic. And I know that it's very, very controversial at times within the sci-fi community to
Yeah.
bring in fantasy shows as science fiction. And I get it because they have their own genre, and that's
Mm-hmm.
great. But I thought that it was important to address that as well, because I think that it is a topic that we all enjoy. I think it is a topic that we can all really relate to when it comes to fantasy and sci-fi. I think that,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a sci-fi nerd, you probably will enjoy some fantasies as well,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that it really does kind of hit the same side of the brain, when
Yeah.
it comes
Yeah.
to that
I agree.
enjoyment. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It
and I
takes you
thought it
somewhere
was,
else.
yes,
Yeah. It's an
Mm-hmm.
absolutely,
it's an escape
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
from whatever. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's somewhere new,
Mm-hmm.
some new adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. An adventure.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. They both do that.
Yes.
So yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
Yes, absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
we've got some
Mm-hmm.
great shows that have done that. And the first one we're going to talk about, we're going to take this back to the 90s, back at old school 90s. Okay. When the 90s becomes old school, things have gone downhill. But we've got Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She was on from 1997 to 2002 for 7 seasons. And there was a show that came out of her show, which was Angel, which I believe had
Mm-hmm.
5 seasons. Didn't
Hmm.
have, I don't think it had 7 seasons. I could be mistaken. Um, but this show actually came out of the movie Buffy the Vampire. That was kind of like dorky, the movie, and
Yeah.
actually, Sarah Michelle Gellar almost didn't do the show because she thought it was going to be exactly like the movie, and I don't think she was
Mm-hmm.
much of a fan of the movie.
Yeah.
But she never said she wasn't. She just asked that question: how
Right.
close to the movie is this going to be? And it turns out to be completely different. uh it's, and I think that it took the vampire lore to a different level also, because I
Mm-hmm.
think that the vampire lore has been around since black and white TV. That's
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Hmm.
You've got
Yeah.
Dracula all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got the modern ones like True Blood and the
Mm-hmm.
originals, and what's it, Vampire Diaries, and
Yeah.
Hmm.
all of these other great shows that are there. But I think that Buffy kind of brought the modern ideals of vampirism
Mm-hmm.
with the old. And then you have this individual that was trying to eliminate the vampires, because it was never really about making the vampire the good guy like in some of these other shows.
Mm-hmm.
So Sarah, talk to me about, did you watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Did you enjoy
Yeah.
it?
I did. And I can understand how Sarah Michelle Gellar felt about seeing the movie, and it's kind of, I mean, it's one of those movies that it's a cult classic, and it is kind of dorky and hokey and makes fun of so much stuff. But I mean, it has a good story, and then they made the show and built on that. and I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoyed how it wasn't just a soap opera. It was actually like, I mean, it is kind of a modern fantasy soap opera, but
Mm-hmm.
it was more serious and dealt with more issues. I mean, there was the hokey and the fun too, but it wasn't kind of cheesy like how the movie was. It was there were serious issues that they dealt with, and
Oh yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
and it was in a more
Mhm.
serious light, and I like that. It
Mm-hmm.
was it was a niche for me, and that was something that me and my mom used to watch, and we liked it a lot. I mean, she has all the DVDs. She has
Yeah.
box sets. Yeah.
I've always loved
Mhm.
Sarah Michelle Gellar. She is such a
Yes.
fantastic actress. I think she really
Mhm.
brings these nuances,
Mhm.
and what people
Mhm.
don't realize, she's tiny, you know, so
Mhm.
Yeah.
she's a tiny powerhouse.
Mhm.
Devin
Mhm.
says, I really dislike the movie, but the series is in my top five, and I'm with Devin
Yeah.
on that one. It really is a a great show, but the movie
Mhm.
was not something that I would want to watch twice. I really did not enjoy the movie, but they did a fantastic job with the show, and
Yeah.
they they really were able to blend in magic and witchcraft and the lore
Mhm.
of vampirism, and
Mhm.
and I think that towards the, you see that transition of all vampires are evil to are they, and you question
Mhm.
that, and I think that they really were able to bring
Yeah.
that in.
Yeah, I love that because like in that time period, like the 1996, 90, 97, 98 time period, there was like a boom of like fantasy shows on TV. You had Charm, had Sabrina the
Yes.
Teenage
Yep.
Witch, and then Buffy. So they were kind of like doing a different thing than those other two shows were because of course they were more
Yes.
magic witch focused. Whereas,
Yes.
Yes.
they still had the same like teenage tropes though. Well, not Charmed, of course they were adults, but they still had the same kind of teenage issues, but they put
Hmm.
since they were doing vampires, they knew they could kind of go darker,
Yeah.
just a little
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
so they had a
Yeah.
contrast with, they were trying to do a different show than Sabrina the Teenage Witch because they still had a
Yeah, absolutely.
blonde actress. So they
Yes.
were trying to make and they were like,
Yeah.
no, we got to compete with this show that's like bringing in lots of viewers. People love this kind of aspect of like something
Mhm.
different. And they did it. So I think that's why they changed it a lot from the movie. I think in the drawing room, they were like, we need to make something that's going to rival what's already on TV. Because this came
Mhm.
out, I think, like a year after the Sabrina the Teenage Witch premiered. So it
Yes.
was like they wanted to get that audience too.
Well,
Yeah.
and
The
even
same
And
audience, of course.
well, I was just saying, even Sabrina was kind of like looking back on it now, it was kind of hokey. But I mean,
Yeah.
it at least, but
it was comedy though.
Yeah.
but yeah, and
Hmm.
Sabrina had to walk so Buffy could run.
Yes.
Exactly.
I think they had to do those things so that executives would understand that this is what people wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
They
and
wanted to.
also if you realize these shows that we're talking about, from Charm, Buffy,
Mhm.
and Sabrina Teenage Witch, have one thing in common: female leads.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Female
Mm-hmm.
leads that are powerful, because
And yeah.
Buffy can kick any vampire butt. Okay,
Yep.
I mean, she has some serious fighting skills, and she was street smart. You
Hmm.
didn't see that in looking at her, but that's what made her powerful. That she was unassuming.
Hmm.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch, she was just a kid, but had great power. Okay,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
who was leading her? Who was guiding her? Her aunts.
Women.
Okay,
Right.
Yeah.
women,
Women.
women in power.
Hmm.
And you have Charm, which I absolutely love Charm. There are the sisterhood, right? And there's
Yep.
this
Hmm.
relationship developing, and they had troubles, and not
Hmm.
that always, oh, we're besties because we're sisters.
Right.
That didn't always
Oh yeah.
happen, and there was this development and this growth, and you
Hmm.
had a lot of challenges: how to manage relationships, how to not
Hmm.
fall in love with the people you're trying to save. And
Hmm.
it's women
Yeah.
leading women in power, and guiding
Yeah.
the situation and
Yeah.
Hmm.
saving lives. And I think that
Yeah.
that was something that was growing in the 90s, is showing women not as victims, or as
Hmm.
damsels in
Housewives
distress or
and
housewives.
Hmm.
housewives. Yeah.
Exactly, but
Yeah.
as powerful individuals.
and people tuned in to see
Yeah.
it, and
Yes, they
that
sure
was a
Yeah.
big
did.
thing. And I think another difference, like between I just thought of between like fantasy, where it leans so far from sci-fi, is that they romanticize things. So like how you were saying, like they were
Hmm.
trying to figure out how to navigate love lives and just
Yeah.
day-to-day lives type things. There's lots more romance, and I think that's gripping for fantasy people too, because we do want to
Hmm.
see like someone fall in love, or there being like some kind of romantic tension. Like that's another like thing,
Exactly.
even like translates from like reading like fantasy books. Like it all just like you want to see it, a will they won't they situation in a fantasy. I think
Yeah.
that always works.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things that I felt a little bit disappointed about the Vampire Diaries. I love the show
Hmm.
overall, and I am a fan of the Vampire Diaries and of the originals. I like the originals more.
Hmm.
But the thing they lacked was the idea and the position of women. They
Yeah.
had this whole "we need to save them" mentality,
Yeah.
even when they were just as strong
Yeah.
physically
Yeah.
and
Yeah. They
just
messed.
as smart
Yeah.
as the men. There's this idea of no, we must save them, and I
Hmm.
think that we lost a bit of that, which what the 90s was trying to do, and bring about in those shows. And I think that
Yeah.
had they turned that around
Mhm.
and made it so that the women looked and seemed as powerful as they
Yeah.
are, that would have been something that I feel those were the things that were missing in those shows.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah,
I
I
agree
mean,
with you on that. I think they missed the mark.
representation matters,
Yeah.
and I
They
don't
they
want to
missed
be
the mark.
yeah, I don't want to be seen as fragile that needs help with everything in life.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I
And
just can't have that. That just overwhelms me.
with those shows though, like I am a cult fan of those shows. And then
Oh,
when
me
they
too.
moved over to do like they tried to make a female focus in the third one they did with the legacies, and it just fell
Yes,
flat because I think the
it fell
people in
flat.
the
Hmm.
room, even though it's created by a woman, I think that the people in the room just weren't speaking up on behalf of these female characters. So, it always is male focused. Every one of their
Yes,
series is like, so even in that one,
yes.
like she is a man that she's following around and trying to help the whole series. Like it's all
Yes, I
male
agree
focused.
that, and I thought Legacy was good, but Legacy lacked that
They didn't make her who she should have been.
intention.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, it was this constant. See, she wasn't strong and heroic just because that's what she was. She
Right.
was doing it always for a boy, always
Exactly.
for the love and the acceptance of a man. You know
Hmm.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It was
Hmm.
always about someone else, not
Yes, it
about the
was an
greater good.
opportunity.
It was never
Exactly.
Hmm.
about the greater good. And there was this sense of, well, she's Klaus' daughter, so let's make her have these issues where she's got trust issues, etc. She didn't grow up the way he did. Those issues
No.
wouldn't have been hers. A
And
sense of
then
loss and abandonment, maybe, yes, because
yeah,
she's lost
yeah,
everything, and her aunts and uncles really weren't present, okay,
right.
as they maybe should have. She was
Yeah.
really truly abandoned to this boarding school. And her mother dies and her dad dies, and she's left
They had
alone.
so many good
So I can
opportunities with
see
that
that
show.
they had so many opportunities to develop the
Yep.
relationships that the women
Yeah.
had, and I think there was so many missed opportunities there. But I think the actors did do a phenomenal job. That
Yeah,
I
I
will
agree.
say, But
Hmm.
going back to these shows in the 90s, they were
Yeah.
really far ahead of their time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Strong
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
female leads.
Yeah,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
then
I
that
love
brings,
a
yeah, go
vampire
ahead.
trope.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
love a vampire.
me too. Me too.
I
I
love
love a
it just
vampire trope.
there aren't enough vampire shows. Now that the Vampire Diaries is gone, I'm like fiending for a vampire show. Like any little look, I'm like, are there any vampires in that? No, no, there aren't going to be
Yes.
any. Fiending.
We need a good vampire
I want
show.
something
We do.
dark. I want something dark.
Yes.
I want the
Yes.
vampires to be almost like, sexy, always a sexy vampire, always. But also, I want them to be like meaner
Give me
almost.
give me a Nick House Marcellus kind of combo.
Yes, or like Eric from True Blood. I need all
Yes.
that evilness.
Yes, Eric.
Mhm.
Whew.
I
Yes.
got Sarah on that one. Yeah, I see you. Yeah, I got you.
The Northman always does it for me.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love him. He is so
Yeah.
so fine.
Yes. Yes.
Um, but we are definitely going to go on to our next slide here, and that
Mhm.
is the Lord of the Rings, The Ring of Power. Now, this show really took a storyline and turned it around because
Yeah.
the Lord of the Ring is not exactly female centered. It's not
Right.
anti-female in its writing, but it's not female centered either.
Right.
But this show has a different feel to it. Sarah, talk to me about it.
This, like I said earlier, like when you take something and you kind of have a wonder and kind of one of them things, one of those nagging questions, like this was one of the questions that I had. Like I remember reading, reading the books and wondering, I wonder what it like. I know it says that the rings were made and they were given blah blah blah, but like how did they
Mm-hmm.
get there? How did we get here?
Right.
You
Yeah.
know how did we get from A to B, and how did he do this in a way that how did this great evil make something that nobody knew was evil until after it was
Mm-hmm.
done?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's one of those nagging questions, or like when even when you read a fantasy book or even a sci-fi book and you like wonder, like when they say, oh, about planet XYZ or that country or whatever, and you're like, I wonder what's going on over there. And then maybe later there's another book or or another show or something like that. um this one, I really enjoy how they are portraying her, um because in the movies, she was just like this great, powerful witch. I mean, she was the Elven Queen, but she, great, powerful witch. And like here, she's more, I mean, she's vulnerable, but she's also like standing her ground. She's very strong and very, um, she doesn't say shit, but, like not exactly telling the truth all the time. And I mean, and it does start out with she's in distress. But why is she in distress?
Mm-hmm.
Because she decided she didn't want to go to the Grey Havens. She was on that ship going to Valor, and she decided she didn't want to go, and she got off the ship and just started swimming. You know that, so it starts out with that trope that and I was
Yeah.
worried about that, but I think they did a good job with turning it around.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I
Mm-hmm.
agree with you. And I
Mm-hmm.
love the fact that she's the focus of the show. And each of these categories of the Elephant Queen, like each category in this series, there's of this strong female presence and this strong
Mm-hmm.
female power and authority. And I
Mm-hmm.
really think that that is something that is amazing. And I like the fact that she has opposition and that these men think that they know more than she does and that they
Mhm.
can do better,
Right.
Yeah,
Tiffany,
they
what
know
about
better.
you? What
Well,
about
I
you?
particularly, I love that they made this series just because it's a prequel, of course, to the Lord of the Rings. This one, just because the age that it takes place in, because like Sarah was saying, I always wondered, even though Tolkien has released so many like background
Yeah,
books about the world, he has built the world. This
yeah,
his stuff is world building 101. Like he's the blueprint for
Yeah.
all
yeah,
these other shows that build worlds because he was
yeah.
really precise with his characters and them making this show and adapting a lot of the background BS that he put out because it was a lot. Adapting all of
Hmm.
that into a series and kind of condensing it in and showing us, like you said, that Galadriel was a strong woman before she was this dainty, although powerful, just very like, because in the movies they portrayed her as like this beautiful, just floating, glowy figure. She didn't
Yeah,
have like the same kind of, that she has in this show. Like she's mostly
And she don't
always
have the
dirty.
badass vibe that she's got now.
Right. She's mostly always dirty, or like, so when they show her like cleaned up, like in season 2, she's always clean in the beginning. And so it's kind of jarring for me.
Exactly, me too. I thought it was only me. I'm like, why do I always have to think twice who this is?
And she's so clean and so put together. And I'm
so
like,
clean.
I don't like it. I want that little messy braid. I want the little dirt. But I think that they, even like I said before, fantasy, they gotta have a love story. I think them trying to put her with him and giving her that that arc to where she had to choose, does she actually love someone evil, this man who ultimately caused her brother to die and, you know, change the way she sees the world, because, you know, when they did the flashbacks in season 1, she was a different person before her brother died. Like she was hopeful, you know, she had questions about the world.
She was very demure, very mindful.
Exactly. She was. She would have been a whole demure ass woman if her brother didn't get killed. Okay.
And then she's on a spirit of vengeance. Yep.
Yep. And so, you know, even like the male characters in this, because this takes place in the second age, in the movies take place in the third age. So in this age, it's like right after, because in the first age, the elves are really the most powerful. Like everyone's coming into their own, the men, the elves, and the dwarves. But the elves kind of lead the way just because they're the oldest. They've been around forever. Like I think in this series, Galadriel is like already 3,000 years old or something like that. Like thousands of years old already. You know, so I think that them putting the second age on screen and showing us all the other characters, I really wanted more of what's his character's name with that bow and arrow. I cannot remember right now.
Oh yes, I love him too. I know who you're talking about. He's right there. He's on the picture.
Right. I wanted more of his character, because it almost felt like they were like plugging him in here and there, like, oh, there he is.
I thought we were gonna get more because of the little plugins. Like I would thought, well, we're gonna get like a real storyline
about
and
him.
I don't feel like we did it.
Yeah, they kept like giving hints about him and saying he's from this place. He was able to calm the tree humanoids down or whatever. You know, he was able to talk to them, and I felt like we needed more of his story. Like we got a lot on the Gandalf character, which I don't even want to talk about that storyline. I can't even. I love the pre-hobbits. I'm gonna call them. I love the pre-hobbits, but I can't even with that storyline. What are they doing?
I know, right?
His name is Arondir. Aron. Arondir. And
his name has R, and so it's very confusing. But but yeah. Yes, but I can't get off storyline. I don't know where they're going with that. I love that they included some of the elements from Tolkien's like side books about Gandalf, but I think people who haven't read those are very like even more confused than I am.
I haven't read them, and I have to say that I was confused.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now that you clarified it, it makes a bit more
sense. When I watch this, I have the Tolkien wiki open, so I can I'm like, okay, pause. Wait, what is happening, and who is this? And then I have to go look it up. And like, oh, okay, I got it, and then go back. And it's like, because you know, it just sometimes I'm just like, wait, what is happening? I don't understand.
Because a lot of people won't know. Oh, sorry, Sarah. I did not mean to cut you off.
No, you're okay. You're good. You're good.
A lot of people won't know that like Gandalf and the other wizards are like also like tied to the elves. Like they were like before the elves. Like they're even older. Like a lot of people won't know that whole story about the wizards coming over to Middle Earth before them. Like they won't. It's like so many things in that they tried to wrap in. Even like when he was with Tom Bombadil in the little cottage, and he was in the scene where Gandalf was taking a bath. And Tom was seemingly talking to himself, but you could hear someone in there with him in that scene in season 2. And then again, I was like, who are you talking to? And he's like, nobody. People won't know, especially if they haven't read the background material, that that's actually his wife. And she's like a wisp or a nymph or something like that they don't even show. I'm sure they're going to get into it in season 3. So sorry if I spoiled that. But like you kind of are like left like confused, like who was he talking to? Why they never addressed that?
Yeah.
No, but some of the things they say hint to that's that character, you know. And even with the dwarves, like I'm sorry, guys, I'm just rambling, but even with the dwarves,
no, you're good.
Even with the dwarves, like them introducing of course, all the dwarven kings end up with the same names. Like the naming in the Dwarven Kingdom is like crazy. They all have the same names.
It's so stupid. Durin, son of Durin, son of Durin.
Right,
Like what?
right.
Like seriously?
Right.
Although I want to sing like some of them, like I sing,
Well, now,
but
now
I want to sing to the point where mountains move.
For
I
I
real.
want
love
that
Disa.
power.
God, I
My
love
favorite.
Disa.
She's
I
my
liked her.
favorite.
Did you like her,
She stands on
Tiffany?
business. Yeah,
Oh,
she's my
she's
favorite. She
fantastic.
stands on business. She was not playing with them. She kept her
Mhm.
husband in line. She's the queen we need at this point because
Yes.
a
Hmm.
lot
Yeah.
of things are going to happen between with the doors between this period and the third age when all the events of the Hobbit happen. Like a lot of things are
Yeah, the
going to
bad
happen with
shit that
them.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah,
But you see,
yeah,
this is where we come back to, they have a leader, a king, but what they really need is someone like her. What they
yeah.
need is a queen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that she can lead that group a lot better than the
Yeah,
king or her husband, who's next
yeah,
in line, could. I think she
yeah.
does a better job.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And if
Mhm.
they would have listened to Galadriel when she told them, "Don't trust him, don't talk to him, don't let Sauron back in here." Well, all she really had to do was tell him he was Sauron, but she was, beating around the bush. But if they would have listened to her and just trusted her judgment, like don't talk to him,
Mhm.
especially Celebrimbor, if he would have just listened, none of this would be happening.
Right.
Exactly. I'm with you.
None of it.
Absolutely.
If they would
Well,
have
and
Absolutely.
then
trusted her.
Hmm. Yeah.
well, and Sauron or whatever the hell his name is in his fair form, he is just. I mean, he's the epitome of evil and gaslighting and
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, he was always honest about it though. He's like, I've done terrible things, and she's like, she wanted to look past it because she saw something that she wanted to be true. Like she wanted it to be true, so she just let it be true, even
Mm-hmm.
though it wasn't. And then even though she found evidence, she just kind of like, well, we'll just pretend I didn't find this. And like, really? Really? I would have been running right up there, like, who the hell are you, dude? Because you ain't this guy. And
Yeah.
She wanted
mm,
a man real
Yeah.
bad.
I'm with
Okay.
you.
yeah,
It was tough dating in that
Absolutely.
world. She wanted a man real bad. She got to look past his red
Absolutely.
flags.
yeah,
One thing I do want to point out that in the Lord of the Ring, the movies, the elven people are always so clean and shiny, and they
Mhm.
don't seem like warriors. But here, they have given me a whole new perspective on who they
Mhm.
truly are as a people. I'm like,
Mhm.
wow,
well, and I
okay,
think maybe by the third age they have to do less, even though they,
maybe.
because they've taught the other races of men how to do things, and
Mhm.
they've kind of left them to do their own. So they just kind of, well, we just sit back and watch, and we're here if they need us. But like,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think right now we're still in the nitty gritty and getting our hands dirty and trying to sort,
Mhm.
and maybe that's why it's so appealing. It's because she's the only one that believed in her heart all this time that he was returning. And
Yeah,
Mhm.
nobody's like, oh well, we defeat Morgoth, we're good. And like, no, he's got a successor. This is gonna be bad. And obviously we know where it's going, but like
Mhm.
I I've been that, not in this situation, but I've been the one raising the alarm and nobody wants to listen.
Mhm.
And not in this, not I don't want to get into that, but I know how that feels to just,
Mhm.
nobody will listen to you when you're raising an alarm, and it just, and you
Yeah.
just have to stick to your guns and keep fighting and keep fighting. And yeah, sometimes you're blinded by your vengeance, but hey, guess what?
But
exactly,
before we move, I
exactly.
wanted to talk about the Numenorian queen. Like they
Hmm.
set her up to be such a powerhouse character, and I still
Yep,
believe that she can be. I still believe that next season will show
agreed.
more of her, especially with
I
her
hope.
surviving what happened to her in season 2. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
think she.
absolutely. I'm with
Yeah.
you. I can see it happening. I can see
Well,
it
and
Mhm.
happening.
Mhm.
I think that this is where the fall of Numenor comes from, because they decide that
Mhm.
because men decide that they're more important and they have more to say than women, and that, oh well, she's infirm, so she can't do it. If it was a blind king, he would still be on the throne. They don't give a shit.
Exactly.
But it's a
Exactly. He
woman. Oh
sure
well, she's
was.
too feeble to make any decisions and to lead us. Like what? No.
I really
Anyways.
want to see how they because it's a little bit of a spoiler, just a little bit, but if you've seen the movies, you already know where this is going with Numenor. I really want to see how exactly Isildur is going to become king. Like how this gonna happen.
I'm waiting for that too.
I know there's some information online. I'm trying to avoid that just because I want to leave a little bit of mystery for myself. But I just need to know, like, how's he gonna end up being king of Numenor? How's he gonna, eventually defeat Sauron? How's this all gonna happen when he just over here barely making it home? They think he did. Like, I need to know. I need more information right now.
Me too.
But not also. I don't want to
know. What we need is the next season, because that might tell us.
It's
and one thing that that's the thing with shows today. Back when we were coming up, it was every year you knew come fall, you had a new season. From fall to summer, that was your season. You got 24, sometimes 25 episodes.
And now we're lucky if we get 8, maybe 10.
We're lucky if we get 10 episodes, and maybe every 2 years. Like, I think, wow, do better, dude.
Game of Thrones really turned that around. I think they created that 10 episode thing, and it worked for them in the 2 years time spans in between. And so all the other shows like, oh well, yeah, we could do that too. Everybody stuck around for that. I think they really created that, because even like in the time of like when Vampire Diaries was coming out, they had lots of episodes in those seasons. Like
absolutely
in those seasons. But I think they made that a trope. And like with Rings of Power, I think it's costing Amazon like billions of dollars to make this show. And so
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it's like the highest, like it's costing them a lot of money to make this, and it's like they saying it's a vanity project for Jeff Bezos, but because he loves it so much. But because last season I guess didn't do too well, but of course as fantasy people, we're gonna keep watching. If they putting it out, we're gonna watch it, but it's gonna take them a while for season 2, just because they have to get it written out,
or season
film
3
in all these locations. I mean season 3, they have to film in all these different locations and do all these different things.
But
they gotta
if I had just made those money, I would Star Trek a show like you would not even believe. There would be a Star Trek every year. We would have movies. We would be inundated with Trek. Okay,
I'm telling you.
We just would.
Like Disney is doing with Star Wars. They putting out a new Star Wars show every 6 months. Okay.
I would give you all kinds of animations, real person, crossovers.
Lady millions of dollars right now.
For real. Come on now. I got you. But then I would also make the Parallax series into a television show, because I want them to be a TV show.
Yep.
Best sci-fi book ever. I would absolutely.
Oh no, I this can stay Jeff's project because I appreciate it and I want to see it. So it can stay his pet project. I'm good with that, because if he's got all that money and he wants to dump it on a TV show, go for it. You know what?
I'm with you on that, Sarah. I totally support him on this. I say bring it on. But let's go on to the next one, The Witcher. Tiffany, let's start with you. We're going to go up to Sarah, and then I'll talk. The Witcher. Talk to me about The Witcher.
So, for me, I wasn't familiar with the video games or anything like that, so I went in completely blind, like I think most people.
Too.
Yeah, I think most people did, and I fell in love with it immediately. Not only because, Henry is gorgeous to look at on
the plot.
The plot. We were there for the plot from day one.
Plot.
But he's gorgeous, and then with this silver hair, he's gorgeous, and I love him in a brooding manner. But I love the monsters. They hit it out the gate with monsters from the first scene. Like, I love that element. I think that what really kept me there was the mystery, the time jumping. Everything was just kind of confusing all the way down to the last scene in season 1. I was kind of like, what time period are we in?
I thought I was the only one confused. I'm so glad you said that.
I definitely think this is a good binge watch. Like, I'm glad they
Yes.
didn't do
Yes.
an episode a week type of thing because I think it would have lost people. I think like
Yes.
Yeah.
kind of
It
like
would
how
have been
Lord of the
so
Rings was a
confusing.
episode every week. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
think
I
this
think
is a
they did that
binge.
for season
Definitely.
3. They did episodic for season 3, and it didn't go so well because I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
like my mom was watching it and she's like, "You watch what's really?" I'm like, "No, I'm waiting for it to be done so I can sit down and watch it
yeah,
all at the same time
Yeah.
yeah. I
because
think they
I
did
can't."
Hmm.
half the season. I think they did a split season or something like that for season 3. I watched it when it was all done too. I'm with your mom on that.
Yeah.
Because it's a binge watch. Like, you want to
Hmm.
follow you want to keep going with the character, especially like Yennefer. Her backstory
Oh,
was
hmm.
everything for me. Like,
Agreed.
Yeah.
I loved like everything she's been through. Like,
Hmm.
she's a top character for me, even over Gerald. Like, I always want to see what she's doing. Like, where's Yennefer? What's Yennefer up to? Like, I always want to know
Yes.
what she's up to. I think my least favorite character in the series, very controversial, would be Siri, just because and this actor, she does a great job as Siri, but I think from what I've read from the games, she was never like this young. I think they made her younger for the series, and they're trying to translate those same traits that she had in the games into this younger character. And like, even in season 3, they're kind of trying to grow her up more, but she's supposed to be already an adult. And so where Yennefer and Gerald are in their stories at this stage, she's supposed to be farther along in her story. So I feel like they're dragging with her being so young. I feel like I would have been better if they started her more of an older teen.
Yep. But
Hmm.
And
here's the
that way
thing
she
with
would
this
be an adult.
show. We have this gorgeous leading man surrounded by women guiding his
Mm-hmm,
path.
mm-hmm,
Hmm.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Yes.
I love the way they do it so subtly because it's not an in your face kind of situation. It's
Mm-hmm.
done quite subtle. And I like that about the show.
Exactly.
But I agree with you
Yeah.
guys. This is a binge watch show. I think that Netflix has the key on that. They know which shows do best when they binge them
Mm-hmm,
and put them all out, and which shows is better to put episode by episode out. And I
Hmm.
think they learned that lesson with season 3. Putting it
mm-hmm,
episode by episode didn't work. I think you lose the ability to understand when you haven't played the game a lot of
mm-hmm,
what's going on in this particular show.
Hmm.
But and again, this is a fantastic fantasy show
Yes.
that really does play into the magic, and into this ancient time, ritual fighting type situations. And I think they do a really fantastic job in
I
that.
think so too.
mm-hmm,
And
Mhm.
mm-hmm,
the way that it is, he's guided by these women, starting with his mother, and then and all the women that he's had contact with in his life, and even even if he ends up them, they still have an impact on him, and he carries that with him.
mm-hmm,
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the things that they've said to him, and the changes they've brought on, and it's not easy for him. I think that says something that he was trained to do one thing, but the women that he's had
mm-hmm.
interactions with changed the way he sees the world, from the way it was.
Yeah.
The way, it's not just this is black and white. It's like, well, maybe there's some shades of gray here.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think that, and yes, with with Siri's story, I think she does need it. They are just dragging it out. And I don't know if they were
Mm-hmm.
doing that to maybe extend it out to so many seasons, trying to stretch the material out further. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I think they're trying to do. But I agree that she should be hurrying it up. Come on.
Yeah. I
Um,
think
but like
yeah. Yeah.
Jennifer's backstory, and then even Geralt's, and the time hopping kind of got me confused at first, but then like I finally figured, I figure
Mm-hmm.
it out. Like, okay, what's happening here? Okay, we're this is a memory, or we're going back and forth. Okay, I got it. But that took me a while to catch the first time, but then I got it, and it's like, okay, I got this. It's I like the way it's done because you never know what you're going to get with the show. I mean, you
True.
don't know if it's going to be today, if it's going to be future, back to now story, or we're going to go back to the future, or we're going to go back to the ancient past. We're going to go back last week. I
Exactly.
they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's, so things are falling into place. But also, it keeps you on your toes. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
instead,
Yeah.
you have to keep watching so that you have that drive. Like, wait, what's going on? What's going to
I
happen
think
next?
yeah, they want us to like Geralt's character. I think more as a hero for sooner in the series than he does in the game series. I think
Yeah,
so. I think that's why they made Ciri younger to give him like that father motif in the
figure.
series.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's why they were doing that. But I agree with you. They dragging her story. I'm excited to see how Liam Hemsworth will take over the mantle from
Hmm.
Henry and
Me
how he will
too.
translate Geralt in his own way. He still would have to keep
Yeah.
some of, study what Henry's done with it, just because we don't need it to be too different. We need the
Well, and
blueprint.
then and the thing about Henry is that he is a nerd, so he's read all the
Hmm.
source material. He's actually
Hmm.
read the books that the games were based
Yeah,
on, and that for him, it's like when he said, like, okay, when they're telling him to do it this way, it's like, no, 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 that's not how this would
I
be.
know it
And
is.
he had a lot to say with the
Yeah,
making of this show.
yeah,
I
he did.
Sometimes I worry when like somebody that's not as dedicated is going to be stepping in.
Hmm.
So let's just, I'm
Yeah,
Let's hope
hopeful.
he is dedicated. I
yeah.
hope so.
Yeah,
He's
But I
moving.
agree with you on
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. Henry's
I
moving
mean,
to another nerd show though.
yeah.
that's what I was
Something else that
gonna ask.
he's
Why did he?
moving.
Why is he leaving?
He wants to do Warhammer, another video game adaptation. And so I think that's
Oh,
going to be an Amazon one. They're putting a lot of money
Well,
into that one.
it's actually Warhammer is a board game with little mini
Oh, board
pigs.
game. Oh, okay, I thought it was a video
Yeah,
oh,
game. Okay,
okay.
and he is a super enthusiast. Like you
yes, I got
buy
you. Hmm.
so you go to the hobby store and you buy the little figures and then you paint your army how you want to paint your army, and that's part of it. And then it's like it's basically D&D, but with figures, and you have to have all these little parts and stuff. And he is that's his game. That's his like
You see, I
major
couldn't
hobby.
That's why
play
he's
that
leaving,
because
though.
I'm a terrible artist. I was just like
Yeah.
one color, everybody. What green? Everyone's green, blue. Like I'll be the worst coloring.
But that's,
I
I
can
mean,
do
So
that too.
that's part of the hobby though, is that's
mhm.
part of it is you have to make your own army. You have like you actually
Hmm.
have to make it. So it gives you an investment in playing. Um, but
And he's
anyway, yeah,
forging
I'm excited to
agreements,
see that too.
and he's
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
move on
definitely
to a new
excited
project.
to see it.
Yeah,
I
it
did
came
not
up.
know
He
that's
was
what
trying
it.
to get it greenlit, and then while he was doing The Witcher, and then Amazon, I think is who's gonna make it, and they said yeah, and he's like they're throwing a lot of money, just like the Rings of Power, they're putting a lot of money behind it, and so I think it's
Yeah,
gonna
Yeah.
be gorgeous. Yeah,
yeah,
but
Oh,
Liam's
hopefully.
gonna take
absolutely.
over in 2025, so we'll see what happens.
I mean, Liam Hemsworth is not, nothing to sneeze at either. He's pretty fantastic actor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he is.
Does
He
any
is.
very
Hemsworth.
well. Eddie Hemsworth is yummy.
He's in
Um,
Hemsworth.
the
Hmm.
Hemsworths are yummy to
Hmm.
look at,
Okay,
so that's not a bad thing
so I
either.
have a theory. The Hemsworths are the Baldwins of this generation.
Yes, yes,
You
absolutely
got
agree
us
with you.
speaking out.
This, yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I completely agree with you.
Okay.
I
Definitely
agree.
are. But let's move on to our last one,
Hmm.
which is the Wheel of Time.
Mhm.
Tiffany, I'm gonna let you take the
Take it
lead
away.
on this, and we will follow your lead.
So this is based on a series of books, and the differences between the books and the series. So if you haven't read the books, that's cool. Just like with most adaptations, you except with Lord of the Rings, you kind of need a little bit of background knowledge. But with this one, you don't need any background knowledge. Because they changed so many things in season one. Season one adapts, I think, the first and a little bit of the second book, and they changed the way that I think they made the prophecy or the mystery behind who was going to be the dragon reborn. I know you haven't watched the whole thing, Sarah, so I'm not going to do too much, but I think they
Yeah.
made the mystery, more a mystery in the show, whereas in the book it's in your face. You know who the dragon is from the beginning, and they
Yeah.
kind of move on with other things, and so they made it this big mystery. And so I think that kind of drags season one a little bit, and you're kind of just like, well, which one of them is it? And also it wasn't as many characters. Some of these characters are made just for the TV show, so it wasn't as many
Yeah.
options for who the dragon was going to be, so it was kind of very obvious from the beginning in the books.
Yeah.
But I love this because there's a lot of like with fantasy, you want a lot of fate prophecy choice. Like this is like fate prophecy
Yeah.
choice. And so you're not, do you want this prophecy? Do you want to follow this fate? But do you have a choice really? And I think
Yeah.
that happens
It's that
sometimes.
chosen
Mhm.
one trope. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
having her be just in charge of the whole series. Like I
I
love the
love
women
that.
when they go to like
Yes.
the I don't want to call it witch school, but when they go to witch school, when they go to the witch school where they're teaching them all how to use their powers or whatever. I just love that. It gave me so much excitement to see how these women are controlling the whole world. Basically, they're in charge of things. And also with this with the Wheel of Time, not to get off subject, but with the Wheel of Time, they it is just like Lord of the Rings in the fact that, and they took a lot of blueprints from Tolkien, but in the fact that it goes in ages. So the age that
Yes.
they're in now, right, is like a medieval age almost. It seems very like
Exactly.
Mhm.
old. Whereas, and they show in the show a little bit, just a little bit. We want more, but they do show the age before this one, or the age, 2 ages before, where it was very technological and everything was very just futuristic. And then they never tell you in the show yet how things reverted back. Like they tell you, oh yeah, everything
Yeah.
broke. The world was broken. The wheel, but they don't really give you too much. So I think for some people that could be hard to follow just because you want the answers and they don't give them to you. And so
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think
Agree.
that's where
They
they
kind of stringing
kind
Agree.
you
of miss the
along.
mark.
Hmm.
Yeah, they kind of miss the mark on
I
that. They
mean,
don't
let
know
me
that
tell you
we
something.
want
In
the
the
answers.
first, you see it from the very beginning, from the very first episode. You see her. She's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mhm.
mean, they're battling this creature, and she's got the support of the people around her, but
Mm-hmm.
it's really ultimately up to her. And I love the idea of this powerful woman being in charge, being caring and loving at
Yeah.
the same time as being um in charge, because I think that
Yeah.
people think that being concerned and caring and loving is a trait that you don't need to have when you're a leader, and I think that that's a big mistake.
Yeah.
I really do. I think that
That
showing the full range of an individual, I think that's important, and I think that we see that in her.
I
Mm-hmm.
think that one of the tropes in fantasy that is very apparent in the shows that we watch are the brooding kings. The
Yeah.
the brooding, swallowing our emotions. We don't act on
Hmm.
them. We don't show them, and that's kind of the drawback is that
Mm-hmm.
there's always this grumpy king, and there's no sometimes there's a female influence, but not enough, in my opinion. Like we were talking about, like how Disa is tempering Prince Durin, and that's making him better.
Mm-hmm.
That I just kind of I worry about that. That's another one of those, the chosen one trope, the brooding
Mhm,
king.
mhm.
It's like there are so many things that are always, not always, but most of the time are set for fantasy, and I do like how
Mhm.
this one is a little bit different. That
Yeah,
we have her, and it's not that same. God,
yeah.
I mean, I still take it, but like, I kind of roll my eyes, and then I keep watching or keep reading,
Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
but,
All
Yeah.
right.
these are queens. These are women. In this series,
Hmm.
women are the
Hmm.
most powerful people in the show. Like, they
Hmm.
set the
Yeah.
groundwork for everything that's happening in the kingdom, so I think that's why when they have this
Hmm.
dragon reborn, character
Yeah.
who's gonna be like this male figure who's more powerful than all the women, it scares some of the women, in the power structure. They're like, do we really need this though? It's cool, but do we
Right.
really
Well, and
need
that and
him?
that and those are the questions that should be asked.
They're like, do we need a dragon reborn? And I think season 2 really shows that they kind of don't, just because I mean they do just for the prophecy, but the women guide him so much. Like, he's even influenced in the worst possible ways by women, and in the
Yes.
best ways. Like, his love for women takes him to places that he needs to be at. Puts him where he needs to be for the prophecy. So I think without them, he wouldn't even stand a chance. The women are
Yeah.
the most powerful. My favorite character is Egwene, just because of how she comes into her power. I won't go too into it, just in case someone hasn't seen season 2. But season 1, they dragged their feet on her. Season 2, they really hit the pedal with her story. So she's one of my favorites. I think Nynaeve's character, which is the one like closest on this side of the screen in the middle, I think her character was my least favorite, just because they gave her the brooding trope. Like, she was always upset, always irritated. They tried to give her a
Exactly.
love storyline. It didn't work. Like, it was just always, there's always something with her. She's always mad at somebody for something. Like, I know she
Mhm.
takes on this mother or this caretaker position in the village before they leave. So she feels very responsible for them, because they present them as children, like, almost, but they're all adults when they start off. But they present it
Yeah.
as though
Exactly.
she needs to take care of them, and they're leaving home for the first time, and they're just these kids, but they're all grown people making grown people choices. Some of them good, some of them bad, but
I'm
it's all in
bad.
that
Yep.
fate, prophecy, choice whole thing. I love the world building in this, just because they go to different kingdoms. There's so much magic, and just you never really know. Also, the magic isn't dominating though. It's like they have
Exactly. It's
magic,
not.
yes,
It's not
but
overwhelming with
yeah,
magic.
exactly. But it doesn't fix everything. They got magic, but it's not fixing everything. It's not that kind of magic. They can't.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're not all powerful.
And she reminds me of Janeway.
I can
Her
see that.
leadership style reminds
Mm-hmm.
me of Janeway, where she cares, but she
Mm-hmm.
leads.
She's strict.
And she's not afraid to lead and care at the same time.
Yeah.
But she's got to throw the hammer down. She'll throw the hammer down if she has to. And that's something
Yeah.
that I noticed on her. It's like she'll lead her people, but she's not above showing them some emotion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the season 2, they really do get into her emotional side more, with showing like her family and her love story, backstory, with the character she's in love with. I won't say who, just in
Oh.
case. Because that's like a big reveal almost. But they do get more into her, how when she left to join this like sisterhood, like what
Hmm.
happened to her family that she left behind. Like, they really
Hmm.
do get into that, and how that affected them, her
Yeah,
leaving,
exactly.
so yeah. And the fact that she
Exactly.
still looks so young and beautiful, and her sister doesn't, like that's a really big thing. When she was
Yeah,
the little
that
sister, she
definitely
was the
sounds
her sister
like,
looks older. Yeah.
yes, there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
revealing that has to go on there, a lot of
Yeah. Yeah.
backstory. And I like
Mm-hmm.
that about these fantasies, that there's not just all fantasy and magic and superstition and powers,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
but there's also that element of storyline and family
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
growth that
The
Destiny.
goes on.
interpersonal,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the personal growth for everybody.
Absolutely,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah, the lines
But
are
we're
blurry,
going, yeah,
definitely.
definitely. But we are
Yep.
going to anything last minute you guys want to say about the fantasy before we move on to our next segment?
Mm.
No, okay. All
Nope.
right. Want to make sure we got it all covered. But we are going to go on to our next segment. Take it away, Sarah.
All right. This week, I bring you Tierra Fletcher, who is an American aerospace engineer. Like many kids, Tierra Fletcher wanted to be many different things when she was young. Her parents encouraged her to calculate things and oh, my laptop just cleared. Okay. Uh, Encouraged her to calculate things and measure things in her daily life. These exercises included clipping coupons, totaling up grocery receipts, and learning about the applications of architecture. All, all challenged Fletcher and set her apart from the other kids her age. At times, she had aspirations of being a scientist, inventor, architect, mathematician, and many other careers within the field of STEM. Her father, a construction worker, taught her how to build and problem solve in physical space. But when she was 11, she figured it out. She wanted to build rockets and airplanes. Since then, she has been reaching for the stars, or at least thinking about how to travel closer to them. She was first exposed to aerospace engineering through an outreach program Lockheed Martin held at her middle school in Georgia. Almost 18 years later, she's helping bring to life one of the most powerful rockets ever built. NASA's Space Launch System, which will send the Orion spacecraft and its crew into deep space. One of the goals is to get humans to Mars. Tentatively, NASA plans to send humans on a scientific round trip to Mars potentially as early as 2035. This trip will take about 6 to 7 months each way and will cover up to 250 million miles each way. The astronauts may spend as many as 500 days on the planet's surface before returning to Earth, a NASA representative said in an interview October 7th, 2024. Having a role in bringing the rocket to this point, I feel like a rock star, says Fletcher, now a project engineer at Boeing. It nearly brings tears to my eyes because I saw it start on paper, physically crawled in the engine section, helped integrate the pieces, checked and balanced it via documents, and approved it to travel to the Kennedy Space Center. Fletcher was married in July 2017 to Myron Fletcher, an aerospace engineer who also works at Boeing, being a test pilot. Now 29, married and a mother, both she and her husband share a passion for influencing young people to join the world of STEM, along with increasing the diversity of the STEM fields. And that's it.
That is wonderful. I mean, she is a product of STEM. And
Yeah.
we've talked about STEM here and the importance of STEM. And she is a product of STEM. And she's,
Yeah, I didn't
she's
I didn't know this when
amazing
I picked
awesome.
her. I didn't know this when I picked her, but like a lot of things that her parents do, I do that with Leah. Like even last night when we went to the grocery store, I sent her to go I told her she could go get pop. So she went down there and she came back with two little bottles and she said, "Well, I don't think this is the best deal. Can you come help me?" And I said, "Okay." So we went down there. And, when we look at the price, what is the price of two of these little, the this size bottles versus which they're different there than they are at the checkout. But anyways, that what is the price for two of these and how many ounces do you get? And then what is the price of a 2 liter and how many ounces is that? Which one is more for your money? And she's like, okay, so it's a 2 liter. So she traded her two little bottles for a 2 liter. And then we, got further down the aisle and this different brand is on sale, four for $4. She's like, okay, we're going to get that kind instead. I'm like, yes, that is right. She's like, I get more and it's a better price. And I said, exactly. So
Yeah.
instead of getting two, you get four for the same price. And she's like, I got it. Which, I mean, that's things that people should be taught. I mean, my mom taught me, and I think that's something good to teach her. And then the school that she's at, she's at the STEM Academy, and they actually do all those things in class. They do hands-on learning. They measure things. I think she's in I think they're building bridges in her STEM class right now. I mean, out of popsicles and stuff, but they've got to use the CAD to design them and then actually build them. And I think that it's amazing because, like I said, I didn't know this about her when I brought her, that she has those, so much in common with my daughter. It's kind of like, oh wow, cool. So maybe Leah's going places.
Yeah.
She's going to be in space. I'm telling you, but this is wonderful, and that's why we highlight these women, because I think that they're a wonderful influence. I think that they've done wonderful work for our world, and they definitely are, role models for our young girls, and I think that's
Yes.
important. But we're going to go on to our next segment. All right, I love this segment because I get to highlight such beautiful books and comics. And this week, this comic is really near and dear to me. Okay, it's called La Borinqueña. And just as a backstory as to what that is Borinquen was the original name of Puerto Rico. Okay, before the Spaniards got there and changed the name. And a Borinqueña is a female person from, Borinquen, from Puerto Rico. And it's written by Edgardo Miranda Rodriguez. His website is www.la-borinqueña.com. And he has created the most amazing comic book. Okay, and let me just tell you why this comic book was far more than just a female Puerto Rican superhero for me. Okay, this comic book story is about a Puerto Rican female superhero. She is from Brooklyn. Hello, Brooklyn in the house.
Hello.
Yeah. who studied earth and environmental studies at college. So she starts out as a normal, just the normal trope of a superhero, normal college kid turned superhero. She is transformed into a superhero when she encounters the mother of Borinquen that grants her the powers she needs to safeguard the island, the environment, and its people. The story gives so much cultural identity. It tells about her experience and really makes you feel connected to the storyline. They really do give you a lot of culture, a lot of Puerto Rican culture in there, a lot of Puerto Rican conversations that are typical among Puerto Ricans, music, dance. The comic is amazing. It is truly beautiful. It uses true Puerto Rican history in this comic to give you an understanding of Puerto Rican culture. So kids who are learning about Puerto Rican history can read this comic and they will be learning actual, well, except for the superhero part, they'll be learning actual historical facts about the
Oh.
people and the island. And even the past storm that they just went through, and the devastation that happened there, it talks about its economy and what's happening and what's going on. The storyline is rich with history. It is well written. She is a Afro Latina, which is not always represented in Latino history, even in Puerto Rican history, even though genetically, DNA wise, we have more African than we have Taino ancestry. I think it's more European than African and then Taino, because I think Taino is only like 18% of our DNA, while our South Saharan DNA is like 22 or 25%, right? And even though we all look very different, we all have these genetic markers, and they talk about this in the book. They talk about this in this comic book. They talk about the rich history, the people, the music, what the African culture brought to Puerto Rico, as well as what the Taino culture brought to Puerto Rico. And it shows so much history in this book. It is beautiful. The art in this book is exquisite. Very well done. Very, very well done. And it's really a fantastic book, not just to learn about Puerto Rican history, but about the representation of the strength of Puerto Rican women in this character. And I think that that is so beautiful. And here she is, smart girl, with asthma, turned into a superhero, letting us know that no matter what things we've had to overcome, we can be stronger than that which we've had to overcome. And the story is so well written and it's so beautiful. I absolutely love this story. I absolutely recommend this book, La Borinqueña. He has other ones that are all related to Puerto Rican history, and this an amazing display of representation in this comic book. I absolutely loved it, and I enjoyed it. I felt like I was reading about someone that I would know, like someone
Mhm.
recognized. I won't
Mhm.
say me because I have no superhero powers. I don't have superhero powers, but I could see the struggle. I could see the victory, the I could see the accomplishments and the contribution of Puerto Rican people in this book. And I thought it was very beautiful. I absolutely loved it. Absolutely recommend this. Just truly one of the best storylines out there for sure. Now, before we close for the night and let you guys know what episode's coming up next, I wanted to know, do you ladies have anything that you want to share before we close it up for the night? Y'all good?
Nope, take it away.
Okay.
All right. So our next episode will be December 13th. at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's going to be Tiffany's episode. What's next in Sci-Fi with Tiffany? She is going to let us know what's going to happen next. What should we expect in 2024 and 2025? It's going to be exciting. I can't wait to see what she has in store. And I think that if you want to know what's next in science fiction, definitely tune in on December 13th. And we're getting close, guys, to the end of our show. The 20th will be our last episode for 2024, and it's going to be pretty amazing. So, guys, tune in. Thank you so much for being with us with this journey. It has been amazing for sure. But I want to thank you guys for being here tonight. And we just want to say goodnight, and we'll see you on the 13th.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our new channel so that you can get notified when new videos